Let it bump, though.
It's Madison the Black Eagle with you, and let me introduce my next guest, Khary Lazarre-White, who is the co-founder of an organization out of Harlem, New York, Brotherhood/Sister Soul, a youth organization, and we had an opportunity to briefly meet at the Sirius town hall meeting when we had a discussion with Harry Belafonte, and I promised Attorney White that we would get him on because I think the country needs to hear what this organization is all about. And so, Attorney White, thanks so much for taking the time to be here on the Madison Show, and how are you, sir?
Thank you very much for having me. I really do appreciate it. I'm doing well today, and it's great to talk with you.
Let's start with the organization. People around the country may not be familiar with Brotherhood Sister Soul. It's all right. It's a youth organization. How did it get started? Why did it get started?
Well, the Brotherhood Sister Soul is a comprehensive youth development organization. It's a leadership training organization. You know, we believe in continuance of and standing on the shoulders of groups like SNCC in the 60s and others. We were founded in 1995 by my childhood friend and I. We attended Brown University together, and in our senior year started an organization dedicated to helping young men build strong lives. There were really two statistics, Joe, that jumped out at us at the beginning that were the impetus for us starting this work. One was that in 1993, for every black male who graduated from college in this country, at some time over those 365 days, 100 black men were incarcerated at some point. So the ratio was 1 to 100. And we were struck. We felt we had to do something. We had to create an organization. And the second was that in New York City in those days, over 2,000 people were being killed every year in the streets of New York, overwhelmingly black and brown men. And so we felt a calling to do something. They call us social entrepreneurs now. It's not a term they used too much back then. But what it meant was that we were committed to a social justice issue, helping young men to transform their lives. And we were entrepreneurial. We wanted to start our own organization, to create our own vision for helping young people to really build strong, stable lives. And so it evolved from that 17 years ago into what it is today, a comprehensive youth development organization that takes young people to study in Africa and Latin America, is an intensive rites of passage program where we teach a moral and ethical code, you know, what it means to be men and women, leaders, brothers and sisters, as we're now a coeducational organization, arts programming, after-school care, really wide and deep services for young people, inclusive of protective services because of the realities of communities like Harlem. So we provide free legal representation and mental health support and anything that a young person needs. This is really a family.
How many young people, let's start with current, are involved currently?
We serve a total of about 350 young people between the ages of 8 and 22. You'd think of us as a small school. That's why we're called the Rites of Passage organization. You move throughout the organization as you get older, going to the next level. And so we work with about 350 here. What we also do, though, is we train educators across the nation on our model. Places like Jackson, Mississippi, Chicago, Milwaukee, New Orleans, and throughout New York City on how to use our model and our pedagogy within their home communities.
And over the years since your founding, how many students, young people, I should say, have come through your program?
Well, we've worked with thousands here in New York,
okay.
And then we've trained educators to work, throughout their schools and their community spaces with many, many more all across the country. Again, through the Department of Education here in New York, but also through a lot of anti-gang initiatives and rites of passage programs across the country. Because we're an evidence-based model and we've had a lot of success just in terms of the outcomes, folks are looking to take our model and figure out how they can use it in other parts of the country. And so we're working with Susan Taylor and the National Cares Mentoring Movement. We're working with the Heinz Endowments in Pittsburgh, really looking at how we can utilize this method in other communities.
Khary Lazarre-White is my guest, and we're talking about Brotherhood Sister Soul. let's talk, if you don't mind telling us, how do students, young people, get involved? I mean, are they recommended by the courts? Do they just walk through the door? What's the process?
Well, the process is that we do no sifting here. It's something that we are adamant about and proud about. What we mean by that is that there's no parental interview. There's no scholastic level a young person has to reach. We want all young people at all stages in their life to be able to come in here and get support. And so some are coming from wonderfully strong families and we're another hand in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Some, to your point, are coming from a court-involved situation or coming out of a gang situation. They're all in this space. Some are failing out of school and some are doing wonderfully. So it's community reference, it's school reference, sometimes court references. A lot of it's word of mouth. We've got, we're very community-based. We're on a block here in Harlem, and we've got cousins recommending cousins and family members recommending us to other family members. And so, we really get young people in through all those different ways. And then the idea is that we're going to have so many opportunities. As I mentioned, we study for a month in places like Ghana and South Africa and Brazil with young people. That's an incredible opportunity that many young people never receive.
Yeah, and I'm one of these people who believe this whole thing of traveling. When young folk get outside the environment they grow up in and they see other environments, it changes their entire perspective, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And, you can do global awareness development in that kind of way. You also can do it sometimes just within the very city the young people are from, taking them to cultural opportunities, taking them to see the expanse of a place like New York. It's really horizon expanding for young people.
And now, could you sort of walk us through, let's say, for example, I'm a preteen or I'm a teenager.
Right.
And I walk through your doors, whatever way, and off the street, court appointment, whatever. Where do I start? Who do I meet with? What's the process I, as that young person, go through?
Well, first, what's different about our model from a lot of other places is that you're going to meet full-time, paid, employed staff who are here for the long term. Our average tenure of staff is 7 years presently. So we're not a model of having volunteers come in and work with the young people at the first line. We want the young people connected to staff who are professional, who are trained, who have been here for a long time, so that they have a stable adult in their life. So first you're going to meet somebody like that. As a young man coming in at 12 or 13, you're going to join a brotherhood chapter. You're going to be connected to 14 or 15 other brothers your age. You're going to define what it means to be a man and a leader and a brother. And you're going to work with that group of young men and 2 brotherhood chapter leaders from 7th grade to 12th grade. We're going to guide you over 6 years. And with that collective, and there's a power, an inherent power that comes with peer support, you're going to also go on college tours and see universities throughout D.C. area and the Northeast. You're going to go to cultural opportunities. You're going to travel with us internationally. You're going to receive support on a family level and a counseling level, wrap around deep services that mean as you move through those ages, when you need to talk to somebody about relationships, about school, about family troubles, whatever you're going through, you're going to have 2 men who are guiding you over 6 years through that process. That's the rites of passage model. Everything else is cross-gender. So you're going to also work with female staff and be working in a coeducational space when you're doing your arts programming or when you're doing your international travel or your environmental education. But your core anchor into the organization will be a single-gendered male rites of passage program that will hopefully help you to develop a moral and ethical code on how you want to live your life, something that many grown men or grown women have never done. That's what we're asking young men and young women to do to help guide them through what can still be a very, very treacherous path towards adulthood.
Is it intensive? And what I mean by that is it almost sounds like it's intensive, and I know that everybody who walks through there can't be receptive. You've got to have some difficulty, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's definitely some difficulty. I mean, those are the conditions we face here.
Sure.
Right? We have a school system in complete disarray. We have still an inundation of drugs in our community, a lack of employment opportunities. Basically, right now, about 60% in Harlem of young people between the ages of 18 and 25 are not in school and not working. So
Yeah.
you have a very large disconnected population.
Right.
So when they come in, we try to find the right entry point. You know, we try to find a space that will connect with that young person.
Give me an example what that means.
Well, that means that you may come in and you may initially just think you're joining our music program and go into our music studio and, you know, you want to make beats or you want to be an MC and you think that's the only reason you're coming in. But then you have such a good time here and you connect with the music instructor that when the next person says, well, you know, why don't you take a job opportunity with us over the summer, you say yes. And then when the next person says, why don't you join this more intensive program, which is the Rites of Passage program, you now say yes because you feel like this is your space and your home. And so it's slowly wrapping all these services around a young man. You think you're just coming in to rhyme in our music studio, but actually we're going to build all this around you. And still young people self-select out. That happens. But we have a very high retention rate, I think, because we have so many different entry points for that 13 or 14-year-old to come in and join our space.
Now, are you seeing an increase in young women?
Our program is about 50-50, young men to young women. Many after-school programs and intensive youth development programs see a higher percentage of young women because, quite honestly, you know, right now in New York, it's a 3-to-1 ratio of young women of color graduating to boys of color. And so they are showing an ability to endure a lot of the conditions they face better than the young men. And so that is often seen in institutions like ours as well. It is not seen here. We have a great ability, I think, to recruit and retain young men, and so we're at about a 50-50 mark right now.
How about young men that get caught up in and we talked about this when we were with Harry Belafonte, and that is this whole school-to-prison pipeline. Right. And so many of our young men are caught up in that. That has got to be a real difficult transition for some of these young men who maybe are in that pipeline.
It is. I think the role that we play is trying to prevent young men who have been involved with the court system or the criminal justice system one time from being involved 2 times. What you normally see is not a young man who commits a horrific crime who gets arrested for a long period of time and gets arrested and sentenced to a long period of time. What you see are slow increments either of behavior that can slowly increase to incarceration, or in a place like New York, there's still many, many young men who are arrested unjustly, who are stopped and frisked, who are put through the system. We provide legal representation to ensure that they are not touched by the system again, that if they are arrested on a low-level charge around marijuana or a low-level charge around loitering or arrested unjustly, that they learn how to evade being arrested again, that they do not get involved in the system again through education, political education, through legal protection, all the things that a good family would do for a child, we try to do for our members as well to ensure that they do not move through the system and are educated, much to Mr. Belafonte's comments on your show, about how the system is constructed around the drug trade, who is arrested, who is prosecuted. If they learn what's going on within the system and the disproportionate arrest of black and brown men, then they will be empowered to avoid getting involved in activities that would lead towards that. So a lot of it's about education in our view.
As you were talking, I was just saying there's got to be a lot of political education that goes on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, here's what's going on. Here's, so if I sit here on talk radio on the Power and say, look, guys, they're building prisons. They're building more prisons than schools in certain states and around the country. Here's how you bankrupt the prison system. Don't get involved. Here's how you avoid it. That's sort of a small way of what you're trying to do.
Without a doubt. It's about political education to understand the expanse of the system. Right now in New York, they're spending approximately $16,000 a year to educate a child, $110,000 to incarcerate a child. It shows you where the priorities are.
Yeah.
So what we're saying to young men are, here are the skill sets you need to overcome those realities. Here are job opportunities. Yes, we want you to go to college, but if you don't want to go to college, here's a great opportunity for you to become a firefighter or a unionized carpenter. What can you do to build a skill set, to build a career that will enable you to be independent, to take care of your family, to put food on your table, and to walk proud? And a lot of boys really they crave that knowledge. We often say if you want to be a doctor, you go to medical school. If you want to be a lawyer, you go to law school. For many of our young boys, our young men, where do you go to really learn about manhood? And if you're fortunate to have that at home or to have that through some peer, that's one thing. But many don't have that, and they crave the knowledge. And we think that knowledge is political education as well, understanding the systems of the country, the history of the country, and what you need to do to be free and to be independent and to be strong.
Khary Lazarre-White is my guest, and the organization Brotherhood Sister Soul, a youth organization, and you're hearing a great deal about it. And people listening around the country might say, well, you know, this sounds like something I'd like to duplicate in my town. I mean, how would they go about doing that?
Well, first, they should visit our website, which is www.brotherhood-sistersoul, and soul is SOL, .org. So that's brotherhood-sistersoul.org. You can learn a tremendous amount on our website. You can also sign up for our trainings, which go on in different parts of the country, including here. You can order our books. You know, we are a community-based organization that's published 5 books. Books of curricula on how we do what we do, collections of writings of our young people and their voices and their commentary on the world. These are accessible to anybody who wants to order copies of the books. To learn more, you can go on the website and look within the books, meaning without even paying $1, see some of the things that are within the books if this is something you'd want to order. And so part of it is to really learn more about our model, and part of it is also to realize the steps of what it takes to build an organization like this, which is certainly not easy, but is doable in other communities as well.
Obviously, your finances play a great deal. I read something where I thought you had a budget. It must be more now, of something like $800,000.
Budget's about $2.3 million.
I was going to say it's got to be more now, right? And where does your funding come from primarily?
Well, our funding, we've been heavily funded by foundations. A lot of, the large national funders, places like the Kellogg Foundation, George Soros' Open Society Foundation, Nathan Cummings Foundation, Charles Hayden Foundation. So a lot of the foundations support our work because we have very clear documented results. What I mean by that is that the teenage pregnancy rate in Harlem is at 15%, less than 2%. 42% of youth in West Harlem graduate from high school. We're at 88%. As you know very well, and the listeners on your show know, 1 out of 3 black men in America under the ages of 20 and 29 are under supervision of the prison system, right? Either in prison, on probation, or on parole. We are at less than 1%. And due to those outcomes, a lot of the foundations have tried to support our work. The problem is also, you know quite well, is that when you're doing work every day in the trenches in communities like Harlem with black and brown boys and girls and young men and young women, it is quite difficult to fundraise for this work. This is not a country that supports young people coming out of economic poverty. It's the first thing to be cut. It's the last thing to be funded. And so even with a lot of our success and supporters like Harry Belafonte and Susan Taylor and Oprah Winfrey, we have still struggled greatly to raise the dollars we need to provide what young people deserve all over this country right here in Harlem, and that is proper support and guidance. So it's always been a struggle. It continues to be a struggle even with a lot of our success, and so we aggressively fundraise, do everything we can to bring in the dollars so that our young people receive what they deserve.
One of the reasons I wanted to do this because Mr. Belafonte mentioned also the role of media. I mean, here we are, a national talk show. We're constantly scouring webs, blogs, shows, and the media just does not give the kind of attention to a program like yours that they really should. And that's part of the problem, too, which could be part of your success if more people knew about it.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
If there was a shooting on our block tomorrow, it would be covered on every media station in New York.
Right.
Well, the fact that we have young men and young women going off to some of the best colleges in the country, building strong families, not having children at an early age, living in a very strong ethical and moral way, it's very hard to break through the noise of the media and for that story to be told. And it's a great struggle in our work to really get the true stories of young people and their success out there. As you again know well, young people were involved in every movement for social change in this country, from the civil rights movement, to the movement for women's empowerment and every other one we can think of. And right now, young people are so infrequently heard from. Their voices are so infrequently put forth. And so part of that is really about silencing the voices of young people, their incredible achievements, and no more than in black and brown communities like Harlem.
Or diverting their voices, like Harry Belafonte pointed out, to a lot of foolishness.
That's right.
I mean, that gets all the exposure that they need. But
right.
but something as serious as this leads me to then the role. I'm just curious of those who go through the program, go through the process. I would imagine a lot of them come back and assist.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the great testimonies to our work. First off, we have between full-time and part-time employees, upwards of 30 staff that work here. Nearly half are alumni of the organization.
Wow.
So first, that speaks to the ultimate commitment in terms of coming back and doing the work, which doesn't even count the hundreds who come back to attend retreats and offer their voice and offer advice to the next generation about what their experience was like going through the organization. This is a family. It's a way of life. It's about young people really connecting in a very, very deep way. We walk the walk, and after 17 years, 18 years, young people in now what we have within our generations in the organization feel a responsibility to pass on to the next generation within the organization what their experiences were and what their opportunities are. And just very quickly, an example of an anecdote would be that when we visit colleges and universities to expose young people to the opportunities of higher education, we don't go randomly to schools. But when we go down to D.C., we go to Howard, go to Morgan State, we go to Georgetown, and we go to George Washington because we have alumni at those schools. And so they're walking around the campus with someone who went through our program, and it makes it that much more real and doable and accessible.
And the other thing is, you were thinking, you get to look at the different environments. Not everybody necessarily fits into an urban campus, say like a GW.
Right.
But and not everybody would fit into a campus, maybe like a place out in a rural area.
That's right.
I mean, I know when I went off to school, it was like cultural shock. Going from an urban environment into a rural environment. So you give people an opportunity to see where they might fit.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the idea is that they see the expanse of the type of possibilities.
That's right.
So even if we haven't gone to the exact school they want to apply to, they have seen small liberal arts schools,
right,
big state schools, they've seen historically black colleges and universities. And so when they apply to another school, we can say, well, that's kind of like Howard, or that's kind of like Wesleyan, or that's kind of like NYU, or that's kind of like University of Maryland. And there's a point of reference that makes them more comfortable, because it is an extremely difficult transition to go off to school for many young people, and certainly young people.
I mean, you were raised in New York City, which is a heck of a lot different than being at Brown, I take it.
Yes. That was certainly a different environment, and that Providence as a city was nothing compared to New York.
That's right. That's absolutely right. But again, like you said, don't want people to leave with the feeling that this is just about going to college, because, like you pointed out, look, you can make in my next life, I'd be a plumber. Given the amount of money they make, or a carpenter, or that type of thing. I mean, this is there's something there, from what I'm gathering, for everybody.
Absolutely. This is not a program about taking kind of high-achieving young people and ensuring that they get into the best colleges. This is about putting our hands on young people, getting involved in their life, no matter where they are, and helping them to build strong lives. And if that's getting one of the few remaining blue-collar jobs that enable you to take care of your family, and that's what they want, that's fine. If it means them being a teacher, that's wonderful. We have ones going off to law school and business school. We're proud of them, but we're no more proud of them than the young man who's managing a store for the last 14 years and taking care of his 2 children and his wife off of that.
As someone once said, all labor has dignity.
Absolutely.
All labor has dignity.
And within that labor, that you realize the levels you can reach. So it is not simply about, though there is great dignity in sweeping the floors of the restaurant, can you manage the restaurant?
Yeah,
what
there you
skills
go.
do you need to move up to do that?
That's right. That's right. Well, real quick, again, give out the website. I hope that people will get in touch with you, educators, all kinds of folks, because people are always asking, what can I do? And you have a training program. Give that website again, if you would, Khary.
The website is www.brotherhood-sistersoul, and soul is SOL.org. You can learn about volunteer opportunities, our trainings, and, to your point, if you want to support work where every dollar is going towards transforming the lives of young boys and girls, young people of color, please support our work. It's what we've been doing 17 years. It's why we've gotten the recognition we've gotten, but we need that support every single day from listeners like yours.
Well, you let us know what we can do, and it's the kind of thing like we want to make sure everybody knows about it, so make sure we get together again. And if you come into Washington with some of the, on your trips, please come by our studios.
We definitely would do that.
Yeah, bring the young folk with you.
We absolutely will do that.
You can count on us being here for you, all right?
Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right, then. Same to you. It is Madison, and we'll continue here on The Power.
I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them